to another episode of the Real Effin Nerdcast Horror Corner. Joining me at this very late time in the day are Renee and Sara.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you ladies doing tonight?
It is
pretty good.
my bedtime, Nicole.
Yes, it is. All right, so it is August 31st. So it means it's still August and it's still National Sandwich Month. And in honor of National Sandwich Month, we are celebrating women in horror. And if that joke did not land, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. So like I said, we are celebrating our favorite women in horror. We've got some behind the scenes. We've got what have you got, Sara? What's on your list? What kind of women?
I got makeup artists, I got directors, I got editors, and costume design.
All right, and on my list, I've got some scream queens. Renee, what's on your list?
I brought the Final Girls.
All right.
Yes.
And what better way to start than with the Final Girls?
Yes.
And how many do you have, Renee?
So I have my top 5.
Oh, I have my top 5 too. Sara?
I have 5.
That's so coincidental.
It's almost like it was the assignment that we were given by Nicole.
So we're usually all scattered with these episodes, but both of the ladies here inspired some sort of structure with the episode. So I'm like super happy about this structure. Renee, kick it off.
All right.
Who do you have at number 5?
Oh, we're going. Okay.
Yeah.
So you want me to start with my least favorite of my favorites?
Yeah.
The final girl. This is, and it's actually fitting because she is the only one who maybe dies at the very end, or at least ends up like royally screwed. But before I get into my list, when I was thinking of my favorite final girls, I realized all of the ones that I like the best are the ones who don't really fit the mold of like the final girl. They're not super virtuous and like virginal. They're not like always making the morally right decision, but you still root for them and want to see them. So that's kind of the inspiration from my list. And my number 5 is Erin, the Australian baddie from You're Next. I love her. I thought her character was so cool. It like warmed my little middle class heart when she just started completely axing all of these upper middle class rich a-holes with like the blades and all of the survivalist combat training. I thought she was really cool how she just transitioned from like sort of meek girlfriend who is way out of her older boyfriend's league and maybe hasn't quite realized it yet, meeting the family for the first time, to just taking charge and being like, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna do it. So that's why she is one of my favorites.
One of the people on my list was in that movie.
Oh, don't tell me which one.
I'm not.
I am so embarrassed because I didn't want to say how I didn't know everyone on everyone's list because I wanted to seem very educated on the topic.
My list went through some changes.
Oh, it did? Okay.
It did. Oops, sorry for the non-update.
Well, I like that you prefaced with that, Renee, because I definitely have been sweating doing this podcast, mostly because a lot of people look at me like someone who should know horror because I make horror movies. But I'm not really, like, spoiler alert, I'm not really the most well-versed horror viewer. And when we kind of talked a little bit before the podcast about who may or may not be on these lists, and I may have Googled stuff, but You're Next. I was like, isn't that the Mask movie? And I like Googled it. I was like, yeah, it is the Mask movie. And that was I thought it was a really good movie. It was like an interesting take on that style of horror. So I agree with you.
I definitely thought it was going to be like a Strangers ripoff. You remember with
Yes.
Liv Tyler movie, and it just took a hard right turn. And I also really like horror movies that have a little bit of like funny in it. And just some of the quick one-liners that came out were so good. And also the contrast between Aaron and these sort of hapless schmucks that she's trying to corral into survival. And Nicole, are we allowed to, is this a spoiler-free thing, or do we say spoiler alert? Because the ending's the best part. I don't want to spoil the ending though.
That's been out for like years.
I know, but some
we'll put it spoiler alert in the description of the video.
I had a friend get genuinely mad at me because I ruined the ending of West Side Story from 1963, and it's based off of Romeo and Juliet. So
Oh my God.
This is 2011, okay?
Oh my God. All right. So when Lord of the Rings came out, I hadn't read the books. I wasn't even interested in watching the movies. And then like I got talked into it and I became obsessed. And then I was working at Applebee's and this kid, Scott, he was like, Frodo dies. And I like my whole world came crashing down around me. Like it was the worst thing that I had ever heard. And I was so pissed. And turns out Frodo didn't die. So
I'm sorry you had that moment at an Applebee's.
Yeah,
really hellish.
Like who does that? Was he a jerk about it too? Like, whoa,
no,
Frodo
you know
dies
him.
at the
Scott,
end.
what the hell is his last name? He's like a chef. Scott Pierce.
Oh.
Scott Pierce.
Scott Pierce. Come on, Scott Pierce.
He's just trying to be
know
funny
better
in his Scott way. Yeah. All right. What do you got at number 4?
Oh, number 4. Okay. So my number 4 is Jess from Black Christmas. Which I went into Black Christmas thinking that it was gonna be like crap. Essentially, like I did not expect it to be as good as it was.
Are we talking about the old one or the new one?
Oh, the old one. Yeah, I don't think I've seen it.
Thank God, dude.
I have it written down on my list, 1974.
Okay, good.
So yeah, but Jess is also, I think I'm just realizing now that Jess and Aaron are very similar in that they are very level-headed brunettes with like accents, and I think I like that in my final girls, like very level-headed. And I think my favorite scene with her is not even a scene really involving with the killer. It's when she's talking to her boyfriend and she's telling him that she's pregnant and she's going to have an abortion, and he's like, no, like we'll get married and you need to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen.
Yeah, that was a tough part. That was
tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she was like, that's cute, like no. So I thought that was a really bold scene to have in a movie in 1974. It would be,
that movie is brilliant.
It's so good.
And it's brilliant because like it's just there's no story behind the killer. That's like
fascinates because you fill in, they give you just enough that your brain goes in a million different directions and you never really know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's, I feel like movies back then, I've noticed with like a lot of the horror movies, because I don't really have a filter when it comes to horror movies, I just let them all into my eye holes and just sort of sort it out later. But I notice now they spend a lot of time with the killer's backstory and like why he's doing that and like why he's so effed up. And like movies back then, I feel like they left a lot to the imagination, and that's why it was so good. So I enjoyed that. But Jess was great. I just, yeah, I like the sensible Brit / Australian as a final girl.
I
Sara?
definitely dig a movie that allows the viewer to fill in the gaps. Those are the kind of movies that kind of stand the test of time. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because those are the ones where the three of us could go back and forth on what we think was actually happening there. Whereas like those formulaic ones, I don't know, they can be fun. Like, like lots of them can be mindless entertainment too, because you know how it's going to pan out. You can just
Mhm.
like comfortably watch it. But there's something to be said about that, which is why we're still talking about it today.
And she has the classic, the calls are coming from inside the house.
Yes.
She gets that moment, which is so good. And at the end, it's again the same thing. Like she's sedated in a bed and the cops like leave her there because they think that she's fine and that the killer is dead. And then the phone starts ringing and that girl is still in the window with the plastic wrap around her head. It's like, oh my God, that movie blew my mind. And that is going to be a Christmas tradition in our household. It's going to be Muppet Christmas Carol and Black Christmas.
Two of my all-time faves.
Yay! I knew there was a reason I liked you, Nicole. That and I DM'd you and harassed you to be on your show and you let me. That was very nice of you.
I loved that. I was like, I'm gonna pick something out just for Renee. And I was like, what month is it? National Sandwich Day or Sandwich Month. Fantastic.
Cannibalism or women. Those were your two horror related options.
All right. What's your number 3?
Ripley from Alien. I'm getting excited now. We're at the top 3. I also used to think my mom looked exactly like Sigourney Weaver. She really doesn't, but I was 7 and she was a brunette. But yeah, Ripley, again, I'm sensing sort of a theme with the last 3. They're brunette. They're very, I think it's part of the reason that, at least for me, if we want to get like armchair psychologist about it, is like, these final girls are the girl I want to be. Like cool in a crisis.
The tough ones.
Yeah, the tough ones. They're blunt. Like I've said before, if I was dropped in the wild, I would just lay down and either wait to die on the ground or be eaten by a bear. Like I would just lay down. So, and these women wouldn't do that. Like Ripley wouldn't do that. And I love that Alien is like a horror movie in space. I think I heard somewhere like The Shining in space, which I thought was really cool. And which I could say it's like a haunted house movie in space.
Sure.
Yeah, actually, no, I'm mixing up with Event Horizon, which I also
Oh my God.
That makes more sense. I hate that movie.
You hate it?
Yes, because
You don't like it?
I think I'm terrified of it.
I've been terrified of, I know we
I
should
think
be
that's
talking about Alien, but I've been terrified of that movie since I saw it in the 90s. I have nightmares about it.
I
this
get
day.
very uncomfortable watching it. And this is the first time I am ever putting this out into the universe. That a movie terrifies me. That and Sinister, which
with Ethan Hawke.
Yes.
That I heard him in an interview. Sinister was actually surprisingly good, and I thought it was going to be like kind of happy.
So good.
Yeah, and he in an interview he was like, I'd really like to go to like be in a comedy, and I was like, we're past that, Ethan. I'm sorry. Like, there's like, I'm not going to think you're funny. But yeah, just quick digression. Event Horizon is incredible. Because I like to look at things that upset me and feel upset later. I was literally trying to slow down, like when they're showing all of the horrible stuff that happened, I was trying to like freeze it so I could see what was going on. Like this
You
far
can probably find that. You can find that.
I'm afraid what corner of the internet I would have to go to find it, because I feel like it's really dark. But anyway, Ripley from Alien, again, she's, and I think you see it more in Alien 2, how she's very confident, she doesn't need people to like her, and she's a badass. She gets into a giant fighting robot.
I think that the beauty of the first one as opposed to Aliens is the feeling of being alone, as opposed to like having a team. It's more of a like a sci-fi, but like Alien is like a true horror movie because it's that that dreadful feeling of being fucking alone in space with
Yeah, you're not just
But-
alone. You're like
damn
1,000
xenomorph.
miles away.
Yeah. So
and if we were gonna look at female villains, the xenomorph
yeah.
is
Ooh, that's
the
another
queen.
podcast. Woo!
Yeah.
That's another one.
And that's the thing. I think it's sort of because Sigourney Weaver is an incredible actress, of course, and I think you really get you both believe that you can face a xenomorph and win, but you also get that sense of incredible aloneness, and like she's part of like this military team and her team is gone and she's just alone in this floating hunk of metal with a space lizard. She did so good. And I'm pretty sure it was practical effects, which I adore. So Ellen or Ripley, I have it written down Ellen Ripley, but she's Ripley. It's not Ellen. Anyway.
All right.
Okay. My number 2. Should I go?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. Number 2, I'm super excited. Maxine Minx from X, Mia Goth.
Dude.
X blew my mind. Apparently a lot of people don't like it. Which
I was just going to say that movie blew my mind.
Oh, but I'll focus. Mia Goth is such an incredible actress to watch. I find her so fascinating. And like, she's again, and all these women on my list are brunettes. Now that I think about it. Anyway, but she maybe I just really want to be a brunette. Maybe that's what this is. But she is
oh my god, I have all blondes. Oh my god.
Sarah, I hope all of your costume designers and makeup artists at least all have like neon colored hair. I feel like that would really round it out.
They might be gray.
Or gray.
Oh my god.
But yeah, Maxine is fantastic because she is so nasty. She is not a nice person. She has like little moments, but I think the whole point, because the whole thing in X is like having the X factor, right? And you can totally like, you want to watch her and not in a way where like you like hate watch something like Joe Rogan or whatever, just off the top of my head, but like
Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson, yes. Like people like that you hate watch, but her like she doesn't like other women. She's nasty, she's spoiled, and at the same time you root for her to make it to the end.
And she's not fucking around either.
Exactly.
She's like not beat for it.
No. And
yeah.
She's also a little wacky too. I
Yeah.
mean, she makes decisions that a normal person in that situation would not be making, like interacting with the people, like, you know what I mean? Like she makes strange decisions.
Because she's snorting cocaine the entire time.
She was also, her performance in Suspiria 2018 was beautiful.
So good. I love both Suspirias. I have my Suspiria shirt.
Same. Me too.
Right.
Oh, you got it from Rucking Fountain.
Yes, I did. I was like, because I'm so type A, I was like emailing them like, where's my shirt? I'm looking at the tracking information, like, where's my shirt? So when I finally got it, I was like, sorry, thank you. I got it. But so if anyone from Rucking Fountain sees this, which I don't know, I'm sorry, I harassed your client support staff. But yeah, Mia Goth is just, and I think she's also just, I love actresses in horror who didn't start out as horror actresses. Like Mia Goth was a high fashion model. Like she and she has that very sort of interesting face that isn't classically beautiful, but it's very, very compelling. And I think her as an actress, the way that she just seems like a borderline like trashy chick from Texas who is, and you totally believe at the end that she's going to make it in Hollywood because she ran over an old woman's head with her car. So I was thinking about it, and this will kind of transition into my number one, but Laurie Strode, the final girl, her whole thing is she's trying to save the kids in the house in Halloween. Like, she goes back to save them or whatever. Maxine Minx would immediately be like, fuck them kids. Like, bye. She wouldn't even be babysitting, but if she was, she'd be like, bye. And then my number one is Kirsty Cotton from Hellraiser, who I think would try to save the kids, but if she had to choose between the kids and herself, it would be her, which is a very non-classic final girl decision to make. She's my favorite. Hellraiser is my favorite horror movie, right up there with Suspiria, which is probably super interesting to my therapist. But I love Kirsty because she's got the big eyes and she's really sweet, but she's kind of a little bratty, and she's a daddy's girl, and she like has sex with a guy, and she completely betrays her uncle. Also, that's sort of the big one.
That movie was Michael Hutchins from In Excess was when I knew about like sexual feelings as a child. But when I saw Hellraiser, it started something completely different. This like that part with Kirsty and the Chatterer when he puts his fingers in her mouth.
Yep.
That's like one of my
would you say that like the puzzle box pieces are clicked for you?
Yeah. Very much so. It was just a different kind of awakening for me.
Yeah.
That sparked a whole bunch of questions, especially because of Frank. And then going into the second one, that's just even more so. But I love that she's your number one.
Yes.
I love that.
I love her. I love her so much because and not as like, sort of, it's not as obvious as Maxine, but she's flawed, and she's not, because the whole thing with final girls versus the girls who die is the girls who die have flaws. They smoke, they drink, they have sex, they're, nasty, like they're jerks, and she's a normal girl next door, but she's flawed and she lives until the end. And she's also, I think
she becomes the Hell Priest in the comic books.
She does. I love that for her.
Yeah.
Love that for her. And yeah, I think, and she's a real normal girl next door. And like, I feel like she's really identifiable because she doesn't sacrifice herself. She doesn't martyr herself and sort of this kind of unrealistic, saintliness. She's just like, take this guy, like, screw it. I want my dad and I want to live, and that's it. And can't fault her for that. So those were my final girls.
All right.
Thank you, friends.
Thank you. That was a great list. Sarah.
Yeah.
What you got? So Sarah, what you're about to talk about, I'm probably going to be super unfamiliar with. So this should be a learning lesson.
First off, I want to kick it off with something that, honestly, Nicole, I've probably asked you this question, but anytime a horror conversation comes up, I feel obligated to ask it because I struggle with the definition of horror. So, what makes a horror movie? Right? Is it jump scares? Is it gore? Is it dread? Is it fear? Like, what makes it? Because there's so many subgenres and things like that, which also
Exactly.
was
And there are
problematic in
also
me.
sub genres.
Exactly. So that
So
was a real problem with me trying to whittle down a list here. So
this is going to be
Renee,
great.
what's the definition of horror for you?
That's a really, really hard one. And the I it's so sad because I'm like, I want to write a paper on that, and I'm not in college. I just want to like write about it. My short answer would probably be Dread, just a movie that inspires dread, because I really like that you use that word, because like you can feel fear in an action movie, like when someone jumps off a like a tower or something. But like, so short answer is movies that inspire dread is horror.
Fair. Agree. Nicole?
Oh, so I mean, horror is to me like a release of things that you are seeing that shouldn't be happening. It is like a product of the human condition, just magnified for me, and feelings of disgust or heightened emotions, and I the overall feeling of dread that you cannot do anything about it, and you
I
don't
like
want to look away.
I like the disgust. I
Yeah.
like the disgust adjective. That's a good one.
But
I
it
don't-
is dread, because every time I hear the word dread, I think of The Witch. Because the entire film was just nothing but dread, but it's not your regular run-of-the-mill horror story.
Right?
It's basically about this family who is in this horrible situation, and all these horrible things keep happening to them. So that's the real horror. It's
Exactly.
not an ending with Black Phillip and her, finally becoming a witch. It's just about all those things that the people had to endure in this disgusting, dreadful time.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
So now that everyone, like, it seems like the three of us at least are in agreement that dread can be a good factor in this, then maybe I don't feel so bad about some of my items on this list. I real quick just want to give shout outs to a couple crew people who shaped horror a lot in the last few decades. V. Neal, amazing makeup artist. She did Beetlejuice. She's worked with Tim Burton like a bajillion times. She's also done Mrs. Doubtfire, and she was a judge on that show Face Off too. But she's like inspired a lot of looks that are associated with horror and horror comedy and things that have inspired other generations of horror past that. So I just found that I feel like she should be mentioned. Millicent Patrick designed the Gillman costume and has like little to no credit for that, like a woman back in like the 50s and 60s. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of women cast and crew. Well, cast gets a little bit more of a bump just because they're on the screen, but crew people, not so much. So then moving on to movies. Let's see here. I didn't really put these in an order, but I'll just rattle them off 5-1 on this list that I have here. Pet Sematary by Mary Lambert.
Yes.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
So I originally had on my outline, like, because I wanted to talk about the definition of horror. Like, is this horror? Is this drama? I don't know. We all associate it as like nostalgic horror, probably because we grew up watching this movie and reading Stephen King novels, which kind of have like a balance between drama and horror there. They're not like splatterhouse kind of horror things, but they do inspire dread and fear.
It's a lot of it is grief.
Yeah, which is scary, and it inspires scary things to happen too when you're experiencing it.
Like small town, just the stuff that sort of festers. Like Derry overall is like, this is the worst parts of the small town I grew up in, and it's like the worst parts of every small town. I feel like he talks about that a lot.
Yeah.
That was my digression. Go ahead.
And I think I had a note. I feel like Anthony's gonna watch this and just eviscerate me. But so she directed this. It was a smash hit when it came out, and I do believe she wanted to do a sequel, and the studio told her no and hired a man to do it, and it bombed.
Hey man, it's not diss my boy.
But yeah, but come on, girl power, man. She did a good job.
For sure. Because the movie was essentially terrible. So good.
But I mean,
So
like that
bad, it's good.
the Zelda scene, right? Like the flashback to.
Okay, so there's something to be said about the movies on your list. All of these,
I'm sorry,
all the movies have this I'm not trying to like diss men, all right, but a lot of men in horror have, like, you know, in the past, this one track mind, you know, it's but the movies would on your list would be considered smart horror.
I hope so.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Renee?
And I apologize. My connection is being annoying.
Oh no.
Didn't mean to talk over you, but
No, you're good.
I would like to say I am here to diss men. That's the entire reason I joined, is to just shit on men for an hour and a half. So that's my truth. But my confession is that I've actually never seen Pet Sematary because the book scared me so bad.
Oh, the book scared the shit out of me, dude. Right?
I read it when I was about I was 14 or 15. And I think Stephen King does his best work in short books. I think if he doesn't have a good editor, which he doesn't always seem to, then he gets sort of bogged down. But like Carrie and Pet Sematary, I think, are his two best. But I think that was the first horror book where I put it down and I just looked at it like it was a live tarantula on my bed. I was like, that is evil. There is evil in that book. Like, so, and I still haven't recovered. Like I've heard, you know, I've heard of the Zelda scene. I've seen like clips with that, just the kid in the road with the truck, and it makes me want to vomit.
Dude,
and
you have to watch this movie. It is one of the best, and it follows the source material almost to a T.
Which is not the case with a lot of adaptations.
No, it's not, especially Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah.
Is that what you just said?
That's it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, that's good and also not, because I know that all of the things that traumatize me in the book are going to be in the film, is what I think you're saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it is worth it.
It might be therapeutic to kind of see it visually on the screen in a different light. You know what I mean? Maybe it's in your head. Or maybe it'll ruin the magic too. Maybe in your head it's more terrifying than
that's true.
What she did.
True. That'll be my next movie pick. Will be Pet Sematary.
There you go. Next up on my list is The Babadook by Jennifer Kent.
Oof. This movie gets so much hate, and
it does.
I hate it so much.
I'll be honest, like, I'm not the hugest fan of it. However, it is a movie done by a woman that I will remember. And the techniques and styles that she did with the pop-up book, the black and white, the screaming child, like, all induced dread throughout the movie. Like, she did a really great job. I just wasn't the biggest fan of the movie.
And grief.
Yeah.
So much
grief.
Yeah.
Can I ask, Sarah, what didn't you like about it?
I don't like some things. Like, I can just, I'm a difficult person to watch and enjoy a movie regardless. Like, if something takes me out of it, I'm kind of out of it.
Because Sarah's an editor.
I'm a very judgmental movie watcher. I think it might have just been that I couldn't connect with the characters on a level that made me root for them or something like that. But was it a beautiful watch? Definitely. Did I like the things that she did stylistically? Definitely. Was it horrifying seeing that fucking creature like just appearing in random places? Absolutely. So it's on the list.
Yeah. She definitely was a successful director. I agree in that the Babadook's his noise took me out a little bit, like the noise he makes, which sounds like the kid in your 7th grade class imitating a pterodactyl. That took me out. You know, that like I'm not gonna do it because I can't do it and this is recorded, but but like that noise, because I remember being like edge of my seat and then that happened and it like kind of took me out a bit. But it is a really good movie. And I think she's Australian, right?
I think the movie was shot in Australia. Please don't quote me on that. Everyone should just watch the movie and check out the end credits and see where they filmed it. Go ahead.
No.
Continue?
Yeah.
Next on the list is one I just watched for this podcast. And actually, I was going to watch a different movie from this particular director, but I ended up watching this one. I'm glad I did. Raw by, hold on, I sounded it out. Julia Ducournau. I knew I was going to butcher her name, so I
have not seen this movie yet.
So I was going to watch Titan, or I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that either, but I got conflicting reports as to whether or not you could consider that a horror movie or a drama or a thriller, what have you, like whatever. I struggle with the definition of horror again. This is definitely a horror movie, okay? And I highly recommend it. It was not what I expected. I went in there thinking it was going to be one thing, and it kind of went that way and then took a hard right, and it was a fun watch.
Oh, I like
recommend.
Those.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just her consuming.
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh
Great.
no.
Okay.
Have you seen it, Renee?
I love Raw.
Yeah.
It is so French. It is just so French.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I love French movies.
It is French.
Okay.
It is so very French. I can also say that I started watching Titan. I'm gonna say Titan. I'm not really sure.
Let's say that today, yes.
Yeah. And that's another movie I had to stop because there's a particular type of body and horror in there that I just do not mess with. That I had to turn it off. But it is, so I can't. It was horrifying to me.
Well, I like body horror.
What?
I like body horror.
It is body horror, but it's like pregnancy body horror.
Oh, like inside. Okay.
Yeah, but it's really the visuals, and I think it's the same with Raw, is like there are just these shots that are so beautiful and like you can't get them out of your head, and Titan has them and Raw has them.
The French know horror. They really do. Martyrs, High Tension, just
did see High Tension, which was awesome. Too scared to see Martyrs, but
that's a tough watch.
Yeah.
It's a tough watch, but it is my favorite movie of all time, besides High Fidelity and besides Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But it's a tough watch. It's like a one and done.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. I saw a couple movies like that for this, but that wasn't one of them.
What else?
On my list, next up, I have American Psycho by Mary Harron. Again, is this a horror movie? Is this not a horror movie? I don't care. There's blood, there's guts.
No, it's a horror movie.
It's devolving into insanity, or is it real? I don't know. It's a fun watch, man. You haven't seen it, you should watch it.
Yeah. It's surprising to me that she did it so well, even taking out a lot of stuff.
She did. It was a good adaptation.
Yeah.
And she grabbed some performances out of those actors that really added to the mood of that film, that you just like get hooked into these people, even though they're all garbage humans. Like, we're all hooked. And especially Patrick, he's the worst, but we want to see what's going on with him. We want to know. Like, it's just a wild time. She did a great job. She might have, I can't remember if it was her or Mary Lambert now that I think about it, but both of those had sequels. And it might have been Mary Harron that wanted to do the sequel. And
Oh, was it
with Mila Kunis.
Mila Kunis?
Oh yeah. It was like, wasn't she at a summer camp? I'm mixing it up with something. I don't know, but it looked trash.
Yeah.
I love Mila Kunis, but it looked trash.
Fair. But yeah, American Psycho. That's a good one. Last on my list is Near Dark, Catherine Bigelow.
One of the greatest vampire movies ever.
I
yes,
just watched that
greatest
recently.
vampire movies. And frankly, like she's a pretty darn good female director too.
Yeah.
So kudos to her on cutting her teeth on horror. She did a bang up job with it.
I just wanted to talk about American Psycho really, really quick because
sorry. Yes.
No. I just had a thought where one, I enjoyed American Psycho because I find Jared Leto insufferable. So seeing him being beaten to death was really satisfying for me. But also, like, I feel like she really, like, you were almost a little surprised that it was directed by a woman, not only because it was so hardcore, but it wasn't misogynistic, but it was very, like, everything was very male. I felt like Reese Witherspoon's character, like, all of the women were sort of interchangeable, and like, which is how, like, you're really seeing it through Patrick Bateman's eyes.
Yes.
And it's so believable. And she did an awesome job. And I remember being very surprised that it was directed by a woman, not because I don't think women are great directors, but it was just there was so much like 80s masculinity just like reeking, which is the point, I suppose. But
yeah, and it was also like seeing it from, through the scope of a woman, how men treat women. It was just she was like, I'm gonna take this and run.
Yeah.
Fun story about that. So Christian Bale permanently got veneers in his teeth for that role, number one. And number two, he did method acting through the entire filming of that, and everyone on set hated him, hated his performance, everything about it, until they saw it on the screen and they were like, oh, now I get it.
And he was putting on his best Tom Cruise.
Yes, he was doing the dead behind the eyes Tom Cruise impression for the entirety of his performance, and he's a fucking amazing actor. Sorry, I was trying not to drop a bomb.
Oh, please. That's
no better than Anthony now.
Show. Okay.
And Near Dark was my last one.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about men in terms of what like women in horror, but what was the name? Bill
Paxton.
Bill Paxton. Oh, he was so great in that. I love Bill Paxton. That was so good. Which is
so weird because he's so versatile. Like he can go from that movie to fucking, what's that fucking show called? Big Love. Jesus.
What is Big Love?
Oh my gosh.
The Mormons.
Yeah.
It is like Sister Wives. That was yes.
It was an HBO drama preceding Sister Wives.
Oh
my god. I binged the shit out of that show so hard that I don't even remember what happened. Do you ever binge watch a show so hard that you have no recollection of any?
I like regain consciousness at the end.
I can remember like the first few seasons because I was watching it live, but then I think I didn't have HBO for a few years. Oof. So I binged the end and I don't remember how it ended.
He dies.
Yeah.
Oh.
Spoiler.
All right, Frodo. Thanks.
Oh my god. Are we in an Applebee's right now? Is this Applebee's?
I'm so sorry. Don't watch it. It's just after a while, like those shows you start like hate watching, and it just gets so outlandish that it just like takes you completely out of the show. And they should have just ended it after season 3 type of thing. It's fine. You're fine. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I got.
All right, it's my turn.
Yep.
All right. So before I go on, I want to preface this by saying my list has no people of color on it, because in the past, horror has not been kind to people of color in America. And I kind of kept my list American, because foreign films, whole other podcast. And I do this podcast, and the research I did on it actually inspired me to want to do like a Black women in horror, or just the Black community in horror. So moving on, let's see. So I have chosen legacy characters, horror icons, fucking horror royalty. And Anthony and I have talked about this before. It's like horror movies, they, there's a means to an end, and a lot of women have to endure, they have to eat a lot of shit in these horror movies to like come out the other side. A lot of my women come out the other side. A lot of them don't. But they're heroines and feminist symbols, at the core of it. Horror movies, especially in the late 70s and early 80s, this was like, I think that male directors really love their women. And they want to do a whole bunch of nasty things to them, but also they want to see them come out the other side. But queens from the past, like Fay Wray, shouldn't even like being a scream queen. All right. So she's not on my fucking list. All right. Because it's like they look at it as like a career limiting curse. And sometimes it was. Anyway, moving on. My number 5 is Dee Wallace. She's like the mom of the horror movies. Like the Howling, Cujo, the Frighteners, Critters, The Hills Have Eyes, fucking Popcorn, which I fucking love that movie. But like she has this nurturing aura about her in all of her horror movies, and she like loves big arcs. She likes to put all of her emotions into these roles. And I chose her because a lot of horror movies can be very like campy with the acting, like sometimes on purpose, but like Dee Wallace, like you don't see her performances and think this is a corny horror movie. Like she puts her all into it. I mean, Cujo alone, that performance is terrifying. And I based a lot of my choices on the reaction of like the audience from these scenes. You guys like Dee Wallace?
So
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say the only I know her from Cujo. But and I remember her, I've seen bits and pieces of Cujo. Again, like I don't know why I'm calling myself a horror movie fan when I'm saying like I tried watching the movie and then I got sad, so I turned it off. But like
no,
I got sad, and I was like, the dog makes me sad, and he's such a good boy, and he doesn't have to go through this, and I shut it off. But I remember her with the short blonde haircut, and I remember her being very watchable because I mean it's really like it's almost like a one of those, it's almost like a play. Like she doesn't go far and it's her and her kid in a hot car with this dog, and like you care about what happens. Like I feel like if she was a lesser actress, you'd be like, just eat her.
Exactly.
45, it's been 45 minutes of this lady in the car, like let her go.
Yes.
So I know her from Cujo. I haven't seen her other stuff, but I need to look into it. Especially I have seen the remake of Hills Have Eyes. I have not seen the original.
Oh, the new one is hardcore, dude. I mean, the original is hardcore, but they just went above and beyond in the remake, dude. I
saw it on like TNT on a Sunday.
Oh,
so I'm assuming it was like heavily edited, but that's
that movie's tough. I might have to movie.
Maybe I'll just have a I'll take it like a extra day off from work and just crank them out. Pet Cemetery, Martyrs.
Yes.
And then just the next day call out of work because I'm upset.
Yeah, and watch High Fidelity.
John Cusack is so, oh my God.
Answer to everything is watch High Fidelity. Have you heard of our Lord and Savior, High Fidelity? High Fidelity.
John Cusack? Any age, doesn't matter. He's the only man that I will not diss on this program.
I like that your list was influenced on standout performances, because I think that's honestly something, again, I'm taking it in like a technical filmmaking direction, but that's just always the way I go. That's something that doesn't always happen in horror a lot. Like, I mean, horror generally, and their big budget horror isn't something that occurs a lot where you can afford like name actors or even like tried and true names to back a thing. You're dealing with a lot of people who are either character actors or they are versatile in the sense that they're doing like soap operas and things like that on the side, and then they'll just jump into a feature like this. So to have a talent in a horror film is like, it's a rarity. So you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I feel like that's something that should be celebrated when you're not even realizing when you're watching a horror movie that it's a decent performance until after the fact, when you're like, oh my God, like, wow.
Because you have a lot of B movie actresses who were pigeonholed, you know, and who can't break out of that. And Dee Wallace is not one of them. E.T. Forever. Legacy. All right.
Good choice.
Thank you. My number 4, which I struggled with so much. First, I had Dee Wallace, and then I had Linda Blair. And then I was like, Linda Blair. There's one movie, you know, that stood out. And I was like, no, she doesn't belong on this list. Barbara Crampton is my number 4. She's not afraid to put herself out there to do some fucking wild shit in horror movies. And she embraces the scream queen. And she, no matter, and she's not pigeonholed, but she wants to do it. You know what I'm saying? She wants to do these horror movies. She was in 2 H.P. Lovecraft stories, From Beyond and Reanimator. She was in Chopping Mall. She was in Castle Freak. She was in You're Next. Like, she's just, and she keeps going. She's been going. She's continuing to go in these fucking horror movies. She was in some horror movie in like 2016. And it was about a board game. I forget what it's called. Anyway,
I can picture the poster in my brain. I know exactly what movie you're talking about, except I don't know the name. But it's gonna drive me up the wall.
All right, I got you. But as I'm definitely not going on IMDb right now. I'll also say well done again on another actress who has, I mean, obviously a very long list of horror behind her.
But she
It's
started
a
off in
VHS
soap
board
operas.
game.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. She's a well-rounded actress
Yeah,
that started
she-
out in soap
exactly.
operas and
continues.
she made it work, and she owned it, and she thrives in it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's what I love about her. And she had to be on the list. She had to.
Yeah, I feel like you can tell that she's in it for like the love of the game.
Yes.
Which I remember. Now that you're saying, I remember her from Chopping Mall, and I love how she's like this, this 80s teen like airhead, in this 80s movie, and then she comes back in You're Next and is like the fragile, like,
yes, and gets an axe to the fucking head.
Yes.
And doesn't care about getting killed. Gets killed really well.
That's also something that's not easy.
No.
It's not easy to do. I've made some horror movies. It's not easy to die. It's not that easy to act like you're dying. Or act like you're dead.
A good dyer.
Just die. And stop moving your eyeballs.
Right?
My number 3 is Marilyn Burns. Who I wanted to put at number 1, but I just couldn't, because that's reserved for someone who deserves all-time Scream Queen. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Eaten Alive. Now, these are 2 of Tobe Hooper's films that star Marilyn Burns. And I don't want to go into a whole thing about Tobe Hooper because I can, but the man is a fucking genius. And what he brings out of his actors, it feels too real, to a point where it's uncomfortable. Okay. And that's what Marilyn Burns does. Her performance in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the whole thing, the mania, okay, and sitting at that table with those fucking people, with that family, it felt like you needed her to get out of that fucking chair. You needed her to get out of that. She made it seem, and it's so fucking dirty, and she's fucking sweating, and fucking her eyes are watering, and it's just the fucking realest shit, dude. And that performance will always be my favorite performance of any actor ever in any movie.
Can you remind me the name of her character so I know I'm thinking of the right one? I'm so sorry.
Sally Hardesty.
That's what I thought, and I didn't want to be wrong and start going off on a tangent about a different actress in the movie. So I am glad. But yeah, I totally agree. And when I think of her, and when I think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in general, I think of the jaw and like the teeth. Like, I think she does some very impressive, like, it's the screaming, and it's like, it's not to like spend too much on, but she has a very like sharp jaw, so when she screams, it's not like, it's like
right.
guttural. And she, yeah, and you're right. I've been watching him the
It's like church.
I didn't know what it was at first. It's like there's a sentient shadow in there, and like I don't want to say anything, but oh, hi cutie.
It's Mr. Jackpots.
Well, he looks like Satan from here. I'm sure he's very pleasant, but he looks like Satan. But yeah, and yeah, I totally agree. She totally kills it, and she has a face for horror, which sounds like a mean thing, but you can see you can see the terror very well, and
yes,
she emotes well.
Terror, okay, and she's incredible, and yeah, like I said, I just couldn't put her at number 1.
Did she come back for any of the sequels?
She did. She came back for Next Generation. She had a cameo in that. She was in Texas Chainsaw 3D. And I feel like she made a cameo, and there are like too many Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies and television shows that like I'm just done, you know?
They seem all very slick, and I didn't like that because the thing about the first was that it wasn't slick. It was grimy and gross, and like it felt dirty. Like you felt dirty.
Exactly.
And
like,
then
yeah.
And then all of the remakes, you have like, I assume these directors who were huge fans and are given big budgets, and it just looks very like glossy.
The second one was great, but like in a fun way. You know, this wasn't yes, it's a fun movie, but this was terrifying. Showed it to my daughter. She was like, I don't fucking care. I'm like, what?
You got to check on her. Well, just check, just knock on the door and be like, hey, what you think about?
Showed her The Exorcist. She didn't care. And Anthony was like, because she didn't grow up Catholic.
That's true.
What is there to be afraid of?
Not wrong.
Yeah.
If you wanted to raise a true horror fan, Nicole, I mean, it would be wrong in every other way, but you should have raised her Catholic.
Exactly. All that Catholic guilt. That'll get you scared.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My number two is Queen of the Bees, Linnea Quigley. I mean, she's on this list alone because of her horror workout video, which is not a workout video. It's basically just her being like super suggestive in her movements. And apparently the like video goes for like so much money. Like now it's like
Really
legendary.
interesting.
Yeah.
I think I have 2 copies right over.
Do you really?
I think I do. Hold on.
Wait, is it like, so is it legit? Is it like is it a satire? Is it like porn?
It's like her making fun of like every role she's ever had. Okay.
That's awesome. Oh shit, on VHS, no less.
That's worth money, Sarah.
Factory sealed.
What?
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Sarah, that's worth money. Don't open it.
I'm not opening it.
You have a second copy?
I thought I did, but it was it's a different movie.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
I think
That's
I have 2
fucking
copies
amazing.
of Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers,
Oh
but
my
I do have
God.
that.
Well, that's a good see,
How about that?
that's a good one too. And she's playing with those chainsaws with a straight face, bro. Like she's just like swinging them around, looking all fucking perfect like she is. I mean, The Return of the Living Dead, her role as Trash, iconic.
Yes.
Okay. Which is my favorite role out of all of them. Nobody rips her shirt open like Linnea Quigley. Night of the Demons, Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball, Bolorama, Creepazoids, Savage Streets with Linda Blair. She kills her roles, and she's got this like explosive sex appeal. And like she lives there. She's unafraid. She's got that hilarious deadpan Valley Girl act going on. And but she has this sweetness to the role. Every role she plays. So it's all like this overly sexual, but like there's a sweetness to her that balances it all out. And she's like the fucking sweetest person in person. She's like just the absolute best. Yeah.
Talk about a
Linnea Quigley.
person. Yeah, talk about a person that owns that B horror pigeonholed actress
Owns it.
thing. She's like, not only am I going to own this, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to be
Kill
the
it.
best that ever was.
I'm gonna capitalize on it.
Exactly.
And
Reinvent
just,
that role of
Yeah.
being that person. And she did. She has.
So
So
have you
Renee.
guys met her?
yes,
said
at
in person
Mahoning
she's-
Drive-In, I met her.
Really? That
You
must
meet
have
a
been awesome.
lot of people at Mahoning Drive-In.
Where is that? I've never heard of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's
I've been I don't know if you saw me pull out a pen and paper, but I'm like writing stuff down because I don't know.
Awesome. Perfect.
it's in Lehighton, Pennsylvania. So it's up the Northeast Extension in Pennsylvania. They do a whole it's like a camping drive-in theater, and they do themed weekends of all different genres of movies and times and all sorts of stuff. Highly
That's awesome.
recommend. It's a fun time.
That's awesome. I love
Same
that.
to you at home. You should check it out.
Yes.
Follow them on
definitely.
Facebook.
Yeah, we met Darcy the Mail Girl. We met Joe Bob there. We met Lene Quigley.
Twin Peaks, right?
Yes.
There was a
Bobby
Twin Peaks weekend. Yeah.
from Twin Peaks. Dana. We met Dana. Just a blast. Just a great place.
That's awesome. Well, it's underlined in my notebook now.
Yep.
And there are 2 stars next to Linnea Quigley's name because I think I've only seen her in Night of the Demon. She was in Pink.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I
Yes.
have, but I haven't seen her
Yeah.
other stuff.
So thank you, because that part where she's fucking putting makeup all over her face in the dark in a corner, and she turns around like just deadpan. I'm just fixing my face. Like fucking, she's incredible. She's incredible. She's highly quotable. She gives the fucking best one-liners in all of her fucking movies. She's just fantastic and a fantastic person.
There's also something I've always found that, like, I found that legit scary. I don't know why, but when women in horror movies have the lipstick and they like mess with their face, or they eat it, like something about that, like I like really get like gives me chills. So
Unnerving.
Like, she delivers. Yeah.
All right. Who wants to guess who my number one is?
I don't know. Surprise us.
It's Jamie Lee,
Oh, Jamie.
Mom.
the queen. I mean, the queen of queens. You can't not put her on the number one. I mean, I'm sure some people could, but not me, because growing up, Halloween was like my favorite movie. Like I lived, and still to this day live, to watch Halloween on Halloween. It was a tradition. Okay. And, then I watched Prom Night, and then Terror Train, and then she started and she's the best. She is the final girl of all of the final girls. In my heart, she is the final girl. She's another one who put her all into her performances. Her performance in Halloween was unmatched. Nobody else could have played that role. The girl next door, the mousy one, not partaking in the partying, it was like the formula was like based on her, sure, there are those who came before her, maybe they did it better, but she commercialized the formula. Okay. And she's just fucking great. And she's another one who was like, I'm not gonna fucking be pigeonholed. Watch me. And fucking just went on to become this fucking absolute fucking star. And where is she now? Fucking doing Halloween movies. So it's like fucking, she took a ride around the block and came back full circle.
Continues to spread her wings in different genres and things too. She just did Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes. And that's got to be in my top 10 favorite movies of all time.
So, and she managed to be threatening in that.
Yeah, dude.
When she's like this, you know, sort of dumpy woman from the IRS, and then when she's you know, menacing them and I was terrified. Like, she was scary. Like, that was really scary. Like, imagine that coming down the hallway at you. Like, oh my God. So yeah, I totally agree. She's the best.
I can't talk about Jamie Lee without mentioning True Lies, which is another excellent vehicle for her to showcase her chops. Like, she went through all semblance of stereotypical women up until the point where she became like a badass. And I feel like she can do that and kind of does that in many of her roles, frankly. It's something to behold.
I mean, A Fish Called Wanda. Hello. Come on.
Wanda.
Oh, such a good movie. She just kills it in everything she does.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
So
I just watched a clip of A Fish Called Wanda, like literally the other day, where she's just like, he's like, apes don't read philosophy, and she's like, yes they do, Otto, they just don't understand it. And she just delivers it so good, and I just want to be her when I grow up. If I had any semblance of acting talent, I would want Jamie Lee Curtis's career.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Can I ask why you guys aren't referring to her by Jamie Lee Curtis, just Jamie Lee? Is it?
I don't know. I think it's just something I did.
Okay.
I just did it because you did it. I thought that was the way we're supposed to do it today.
I'm sorry.
I guess because her mom is Janet Leigh, and I'm just automatically calling her Jamie Lee, another screen queen who could not make it on the list because
her daughter beat her.
I mean, I guess Psycho was great, and what a great performance. Can I say my honorable mentions?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I've got Linda Blair. I've got Heather Langenkamp from Nightmare on Elm Street. I've got Anya Taylor-Joy from The Witch.
Well played.
I've got Toni Collette for her performance in Hereditary. I was kind of sad that I did not put it on the list. But these ladies paved the way. So I had Janet Leigh, I had Sigourney Weaver, I have Neve Campbell, Barbara Steele, Brink Stevens. Shout out to all those ladies. But yeah, this has been an awesome episode. And it only ran a little under an hour and a half.
Oh boy.
Really well. Did really well.
I could probably sit here and talk for another 45 minutes about.
For sure.
Same.
At least.
I actually, and you don't have to record this, but I brought a book recommendation for you guys. And it's backwards, but it's called House of Psychotic Women by Kirla Janis. And she is this this Canadian, like, she curates horror festivals. She directed that that documentary on horror called it's like Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched, I think is what it's called, and it's a history of folk horror in movies.
Ooh.
And it's like 3 hours long. It's so good.
I love my documentaries long.
Yes. And I think it's literally called A Brief History of Folk Horror, and it's like a 3-hour thing, but it's so good. But this one is so it's sort of an autobiography of her life, which was like she was raised by a single mom who had a lot of mental health, like she struggled a lot growing up, and she had a lot of mental health issues, and she kind of alternates between really important moments in her life and talking about these genre films with women losing their mind on screen. So it's really pretty. It's got like really good like full color pictures.
Man, I love this.
Amazon. And she talks about repulsion. Let me see some of the names. Antichrist, Toys Are Not for Children, Christine F. Like so that was, I just wanted to.
I wrote that down. I'm gonna buy
did too.
this.
Yeah, it's really good. I couldn't find my copy, so I grabbed the one I'm giving to my friend for her birthday. That's why I ran out of the room and came back.
Spoiler
But
alert.
yeah.
Oh no, I hope she doesn't watch this.
I'm gonna see her literally tomorrow. So.
Okay.
And I told her I was getting it, so you know.
Renee, do you have anything else to plug?
Besides House of Psychotic Women, highly recommend the Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. Just finished that. It's literally about a support group for final girls in a world where there are final girls. And I love Grady Hendrix because his horror novels are very funny, but also legitimately terrifying.
Well, you suggested My Best Friend's Exorcism, and that's like hands down one of my favorite books.
You read it? Did you like it? You liked it?
I loved it.
Yay.
I loved it. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
But like there were some legitimately like frightening parts.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, that dog part, Jesus.
Oh my, yeah. So they're doing a limited series, I think, of it on Amazon Prime, and I'm hoping that it's good. I don't want to get hurt. hurt.
Oh my God, I love when stuff like this happens, and then I'm terrified that they're like gonna fucking cancel it or something. Like they fucking canceled The Wilds, and I'll fucking never, ever, ever get over it. I'll just be like crying about
was that
it
on?
until the day I die. It's on Amazon Prime. It's like girl power. Okay.
It's oh no, I'm thinking Yellow Jackets, which
this is way better than Yellow Jackets.
Oh, okay. All right.
Way better. I mean, I like Yellow Jackets, but The Wild.
I haven't seen it. I just know that I see it like people.
You got to watch The Wilds. It's incredible. Even Vinny liked it.
Thank you, Vinny. I'm glad you liked it.
Sarah, you got anything to plug?
Trenton Punk Rock Flea Market is September 10th. Y'all should come out to that. There's always a decent horror turnout of macabre trinkets and movies and posters and prints and clothes. I'd also got to promote D.I.Why Films. Check us out on social media and our website. That's D.I.Why, as in why am I doing this with a question mark. And I think that's all I got to promote.
Awesome. I have nothing to plug except for my podcast.
Yay.
Yeah.
So this has been awesome. So do me a favor, people out there, if you're gonna leave any hate comments, just make sure you like, subscribe, and keep the comments coming. And tell us your favorite scream queens, your final girls, your favorite makeup artists, but make sure that they're women, directors, whatever. And I think we're done. So bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.